Addiction is often seen as a force that takes control over a person's actions. It's usually linked to substances like alcohol, drugs, or cigarettes. But addiction is not limited to just chemicals. It can also be habits, patterns of behavior, or even the need for approval from others. In simple terms, addiction means being attached to something so deeply that it becomes hard to live without it. Attachment, as understood by the Buddha, goes beyond physical cravings. It includes the mental and emotional bonds we form with people, objects, or ideas. Attachment is the mind's habit of clinging to what feels pleasant and avoiding what causes discomfort. This clinging is natural, but it can trap us in endless cycles where satisfaction never lasts. From a modern perspective, addiction is often described as a compulsive behavior, despite negative consequences. Science shows that addiction rewires the brain, creating a loop where the need for a substance or behavior overrides reason and self-control. But Buddhist teachings look at addiction not only as a biological or psychological issue, but also as a spiritual problem. It is the mind's refusal to accept change and impermanence. Addictions come in many forms. Physical addictions involve the body's dependence on substances like nicotine or alcohol. Mental addictions refer to repetitive thoughts or compulsions, like obsessing over social media or gambling. Emotional addiction appears as a constant craving for love, validation, or approval. On a deeper level, spiritual addiction is a longing for permanent happiness in temporary things, such as status or material wealth. The Buddha called this pattern dukkha, which means suffering or unsatisfactoriness. According to his teachings, suffering arises because we desire things to be permanent when everything in life is constantly changing. We cling to experiences, possessions, or relationships, hoping they will bring lasting happiness. Instead, this clinging causes pain when things inevitably shift or disappear. Why do we keep chasing what causes pain? Why do we repeat the same behaviors that never fully satisfy us? The answer lies in the nature of craving, which is a powerful force driving attachment. Craving is the mind's way of trying to hold on, to secure something it fears losing. But because everything is impermanent, craving is always followed by disappointment. This cycle of craving and disappointment is at the heart of addiction. We seek relief in temporary pleasures, only to find ourselves wanting more. The more we chase, the stronger the hold becomes, yet this pursuit blinds us to the truth that freedom lies in letting go, not in possession. Understanding addiction through both modern science and Buddhist philosophy reveals how deeply attachment influences human behavior. Addiction is not simply a problem to be fixed externally. It is a condition rooted in the mind's resistance to change and the refusal to accept the nature of reality. The question remains, why do we continue to bind ourselves to what harms us? Why do we trust these fleeting moments to bring lasting peace? The answer is not simple, but recognizing the role of attachment is the first step toward breaking free. It is the starting point on a path that leads beyond suffering and toward genuine freedom. The Buddha's teaching begins with a clear statement: attachment causes suffering. This idea is simple but powerful. When we hold on tightly to things, whether they are objects, people, or ideas, we create a trap for ourselves. The more we cling, the more pain follows. The Buddha saw that the root of all suffering lies in craving, wanting something so badly that it controls the mind. He explained this through what are called the Four Noble Truths. The first truth is that suffering exists. Life is filled with discomfort, dissatisfaction, and loss. No one escapes these realities. The second truth identifies craving as the cause. Desire, longing, and attachment push us into cycles of frustration. The third truth offers hope. If craving stops, suffering ends. The final truth lays out the path to overcome craving, a way to freedom through understanding and discipline. Craving, or tanha, is not just wanting a cup of water when thirsty. It's a deeper force. It is the mind's constant push for more pleasure, more comfort, more control. This urge never finds lasting satisfaction. It's like drinking salty water to quench thirst. The salt only makes the thirst worse. In this way, addiction acts like a fire. It consumes attention and energy, but it never burns out. Instead, it feeds itself, growing stronger and harder to escape. Imagine chains wrapped tightly around your hands. Each craving pulls these chains tighter. At first, the chains might feel light, almost invisible. But over time, they grow heavy, limiting movement and freedom. Addictions bind the mind in this way. They promise release and happiness, but deliver confinement and pain. Every attempt to satisfy craving leaves a gap, a hollow space where peace should be. This cycle repeats endlessly. The more one chases pleasure or avoids pain, the deeper the entanglement. People try to fill the emptiness with substances, habits, or distractions, yet none of these provide permanent relief. Instead, each craving only sparks another, forming a loop with no clear exit. The harsh truth is that addictions, regardless of form, cannot fulfill the mind's real needs. They act like shadows on a wall, always shifting, never solid. Chasing them wastes time and energy. The Buddha's teaching asks us to recognize this trap clearly, to see craving for what it is. Only then can the possibility of freedom begin. This teaching does not blame the addicted. Instead, it points out the natural laws of the mind and life. Understanding that craving leads to suffering is the first step. Accepting that there is a path to stop this cycle is the next. The Buddha's truth is not easy to hear, but it is direct and clear. Attachment keeps us bound, and letting go is the key to release. The mind's craving begins with a simple impulse. Something attracts attention, a sound, a taste, a thought, and the brain reacts. Neuroscience shows that this reaction activates the reward system, a network designed to reinforce behaviors that help survival. Dopamine, a chemical messenger, floods certain areas, creating a sense of pleasure or anticipation. This process is not bad by itself. It helps humans learn and repeat useful actions, like eating or protecting themselves. But craving goes beyond these basic needs. When the brain links pleasure to a specific action, it creates a habit loop. The brain starts to expect the reward before the action happens. This anticipation itself becomes addictive. The mind begins to chase the feeling rather than the actual benefit. It builds a cycle. Desire grows stronger, satisfaction feels shorter, and the urge returns quickly. Attachment grows in this loop. The mind clings to the object of craving because it associates that thing with relief or happiness. But relief is only temporary. After the high fades, an empty space appears. This emptiness feels uncomfortable, so the mind looks for the next fix. Each time, the relief becomes less intense, while the craving becomes more urgent. This is the cycle of addiction, seeking, satisfying, and then craving again deeper than before. Modern psychology describes this pattern as reinforcement learning, where behaviors that bring reward are repeated and strengthened. Yet, when the reward fades, the brain's desire intensifies. This creates a tension between wanting and having, which often feels impossible to resolve. The stronger the craving, the more the mind resists letting go. Ancient stories tell of people caught in this cycle. The Buddha himself witnessed how attachments chain the mind. In his time, people suffered from desires for wealth, status, or physical pleasure, much like today. One tale speaks of a man who chased fame, but found only emptiness. Another describes someone clinging to youth and beauty, losing peace as years passed. In modern times, addiction remains common. Consider a person who cannot stop checking their phone, scrolling endlessly for a brief thrill. Each notification releases dopamine, giving a moment of satisfaction. But soon after, the urge returns stronger, demanding more attention. Or someone who uses food or substances to numb discomfort, only to find the cravings return with greater force. These examples show how attachment fuels suffering. The mind becomes a prisoner of its own desires, chasing after fleeting relief but never finding lasting peace. The more the craving controls, the less freedom remains. This cycle affects people across cultures and centuries. It is a universal pattern rooted in how the brain responds to desire. Understanding the psychology behind craving reveals why breaking free is so difficult. The brain's reward system is designed to keep the cycle going, reinforcing habits that once helped but now harm. Yet awareness of this process is the first step toward change. Recognizing how craving works opens the door to slowing down the cycle, creating space to choose differently. The mind's need to attach is powerful, but not unchangeable. When craving no longer controls action, suffering begins to lessen. The Buddha's insight into attachment explains why craving fuels suffering and points toward a way to end the cycle. This knowledge does not erase craving instantly, but shows the path toward freedom from its grip. Addiction is often linked to drugs or alcohol, but it reaches far beyond these obvious forms. There are hidden addictions that shape many lives without clear recognition. One of the most common today is the need for approval, especially through social media. People scroll through endless feeds, searching for likes, comments, or shares. Each notification triggers a small reward in the brain similar to a drug hit. But this approval is never enough. It fades quickly, prompting a return to the screen, a need for more validation. This constant seeking of attention becomes a habit, a craving that pulls the mind deeper into attachment. Relationships can also become traps. Codependency occurs when one person's sense of worth depends heavily on another. Instead of sharing freely, the attachment twists into control or neediness. This dynamic feeds suffering because it demands permanence in something that is always changing. People grow, circumstances shift, and feelings evolve. When identity is tied too closely to another person, the inevitable changes cause pain. The need to hold on to a fixed image or status in a relationship only tightens the grip of suffering. Power and money offer another form of attachment. Chasing status, wealth, or control often feels like a path to security or happiness. But power is fragile. Wealth can disappear overnight. The identity built around these external things is unstable. People invest their value in possessions or titles, believing these will provide lasting peace. Instead, they face anxiety, fear of loss, and competition. This clinging to power and money fuels constant unrest. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent, a concept called anicca. Everything changes, whether people, possessions, or situations. To hold on to any of these as permanent invites suffering. Attachment insists on permanence, refusing to accept change. But the reality is fluid. Life moves in cycles and nothing remains the same for long. When attachment extends beyond substances to these hidden forms, the suffering becomes less obvious, but just as real. The mind feels trapped by invisible chains, dependency on approval, relationships, or status. These addictions are harder to recognize because society often encourages them. Validation, love, success, these are seen as goals, even necessities. Yet when they become attachments, they cause the same pain as any addiction. Understanding this helps reveal the nature of suffering. The desire to fix what cannot be fixed leads to frustration. The attempt to secure happiness in unstable things brings disappointment. The Buddha's teaching on impermanence shows the path to freedom. By seeing change as natural, attachment loosens its hold. When craving for permanence fades, suffering starts to ease. These hidden addictions are not easier or less serious than physical ones. They shape behaviors, decisions, and relationships, binding people in subtle ways. Recognizing them is a step toward breaking free. The cycle of craving, temporary relief, and deeper craving applies here just as clearly. Letting go of attachment to approval, control, or identity leads to greater peace, even when the world around continues to change. Freedom from addiction does not come through force or avoidance, but through a way the Buddha called detachment, or vairagya. This concept is often misunderstood. It is not about shutting down, ignoring life, or feeling cold toward what happens around us. Instead, detachment means stepping back from the urge to grab onto things, the habit of craving that drives suffering. It is learning to see desires clearly without becoming controlled by them. Detachment allows space between the impulse and the action. Instead of reacting automatically to every craving, the mind watches the desire rise and fall like a wave. This observation weakens the hold craving has. When the need to possess or control fades, freedom grows. The chain of addiction loosens because the mind no longer feeds the fire. Practices like mindfulness and meditation are tools to develop this ability. Mindfulness trains attention to focus on the present moment without judgment or distraction. When craving appears, instead of acting on it, the practice encourages noticing it with curiosity. This simple act interrupts the automatic response that usually leads to giving in. Meditation strengthens this skill by allowing the mind to settle and recognize the difference between the craving and the self that observes it. The Buddha taught a path that avoids extremes. It is neither complete suppression of desire nor surrender to every impulse. This middle way accepts cravings as natural, but refuses to let them dictate behavior. The path asks for balance, meeting the reality of desire without becoming its prisoner. This balance brings peace because it recognizes the mind's power but also its limits. Detachment is a gradual process. It grows stronger with practice and understanding. At first, cravings may still feel intense, but with consistent awareness, their control diminishes. The mind becomes more flexible, less reactive, and less dependent on external things for happiness. This approach does not mean denying life's pleasures. Instead, it means engaging with them freely, without grasping or clinging. Enjoyment exists, but it is not the source of security or identity. The mind rests in the knowing that everything changes, and happiness is not tied to any one object or experience. By embracing detachment, the cycle of addiction can be broken. The fire of craving no longer consumes energy or attention. Instead, the mind finds calm in the space between desire and action. This freedom is not found by fighting cravings, but by stepping aside from them, watching without judgment, and choosing a different way forward. Detachment is the path that leads beyond suffering, beyond endless craving. It is the doorway to lasting peace, where the mind is no longer bound by the need to hold on. Instead, it moves with the flow of life, steady and free. The first step in letting go begins with awareness. Recognizing cravings as they arise is essential. Instead of being swept away by the urge, simply noticing it changes the relationship between the mind and desire. Awareness means seeing the craving without immediately responding. This moment of recognition creates a choice to act or to step back. When the mind pauses, the cycle of automatic reaction weakens. Meditation plays a key role in building this awareness. Simple techniques focus attention on the breath or the body, anchoring the mind in the present moment. When cravings emerge during practice, the instruction is to observe without judgment or resistance. See the craving as a passing cloud, not a command. This attitude reduces the power cravings hold. Over time, meditation trains the mind to remain steady amid desires, making space for wiser decisions. Alongside mindfulness, compassion is crucial. Change is rarely easy or fast. People struggling with addiction often face frustration or self-criticism. The Buddhist approach encourages kindness toward oneself, recognizing that suffering and mistakes are part of the process. Being patient and gentle allows the mind to heal rather than hardening it with blame. This compassion helps maintain motivation and reduces the cycle of guilt that can lead back to addiction. Throughout history and today, many have found transformation by practicing detachment. For example, individuals battling substance addiction often report that meditation helped them observe cravings without acting on them. Some who felt trapped by emotional dependence discovered that mindfulness brought clarity, helping them break free from harmful patterns. These stories show that letting go is possible, even after years of struggle. Patience remains a constant theme. Freedom from addiction is not a sudden event, but a gradual journey. Each moment of awareness, each choice not to feed craving, builds strength. Relapses may occur, but they are part of learning, not failure. The process unfolds at its own pace, requiring persistence and trust in the practice. Letting go means stepping out of the cycle of craving, slowly loosening the grip of attachment. It means being present with desire without giving it power. This path is not quick or simple, but it leads to genuine freedom, a mind no longer ruled by habit or need. With awareness, meditation, compassion, and patience, the door to liberation opens one step at a time. Imagine a life no longer ruled by endless craving. The mind is calm, steady, no longer pulled in different directions by desire. Thoughts come and go, but none hold power to command action. The urge to chase or grasp fades, replaced by a clear space where choices arise freely. This freedom is not about denying pleasure or experience, but about engaging without being trapped. Moments are seen clearly, without needing to hold on to them or push them away. With craving released, clarity emerges. Decisions become less clouded by urgency or fear. The mind rests in the present, no longer dragged into past regrets or future worries. There is room to see things as they truly are, not distorted by attachment. This clarity allows for wiser actions and a deeper understanding of life's flow. Along with calm and clarity, there is a natural joy, not dependent on external things or fleeting sensations. This joy arises simply because the mind is free from the constant tension of craving. It comes from knowing that peace is possible, that happiness is not found in possession or control, but in the letting go. This state echoes the Buddha's promise, liberation from suffering. The teachings do not offer escape through fantasy, but a real path to freedom. The end of suffering is possible by ending craving. The Buddha showed that this freedom is not reserved for a few, but open to anyone willing to understand the nature of attachment. This hope inspires change. It calls to those caught in cycles of addiction or attachment. It reminds that suffering is not the final chapter. With effort, awareness, and patience, the chains loosen. The mind wakes from its captivity to desire and steps into a larger life. Freedom beyond addiction is not a distant dream, but a reachable reality. It awaits on the other side of craving, where peace, clarity, and joy flow naturally. This truth offers motivation to begin or continue the journey, knowing that lasting change is possible. Now, consider this moment. What habit or attachment will you confront honestly today? What craving will you face without turning away? The journey begins with awareness, and that starts with truth, recognizing where you hold on too tightly, what pulls you again and again. Take time to look inward, to reflect quietly on what binds you. Meditation offers a simple space for this, watching your mind, noticing desires without rushing to fulfill them. This practice is not easy, but it is the first step toward freedom. You do not have to walk this path alone. Sharing what you learn, this message of release, can help others who struggle with their own attachments. When more people wake to the truth of craving and suffering, the world changes slowly, one mind at a time. Remember the Buddha's words. Craving is the root of suffering. Let go and suffering ends. Let this guide you now. Face your cravings, observe them, and begin the work of letting go. The path to freedom starts here. Thank you for following teachings on how to be free from addictions. If you found this video helpful, kindly like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thank you.